welcome to the show, Lara Heimann.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you too.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
Yeah, we're grateful to get some time with you.
Yeah.
Lara, I thought it would be helpful. We just did a intro of you, but just to introduce yourself, like when you are on a podcast like this, how do you introduce yourself? What do you say about you?
I'm just a human trying to do the best I can in the world. No, well, I am, I'm a mom first and foremost and a partner. I am a physical therapist and yoga teacher who just has, been curious about life and movement and how we manage our emotions, our behavior, and how it's all intertwined. And, so I've always been into the mind-body connection, even before I had given it or even knew that was a thing. I just intuitively knew it growing up. I felt very into understanding my body and how it made me feel. When I was moving, I felt really good. I felt really alive, exuberant, even as a kid, playing with my brothers. And then just move through life with that understanding that this is a container and how I treat it really determines a lot for how I feel inside and how I behave toward others. So I guess long story short, I'm a human trying to do my best, and I'm really interested in helping others and interested in helping myself to be the best version I can.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So cool.
And you're married and have a couple kids, I think.
Yes, I've been married 20 years.
Woo.
Well
And yeah, I know, like that's big. 20 years sounds like such a long time. And we have two children. I have a daughter, Olivia, who is 19 and is a freshman in college. And I have a son, Jonah, who's 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your family's so beautiful. I love seeing them on social media, of course. But
Yeah, thank you. I love them and they bring me so much joy. And with parenting, it's such a you just do the best you can and roll with the punches. And it's kind of like this big chemistry experiment that you hope that everything you do, you don't really know the outcome of it for decades. So it's having a wonderful partner is been like the best joy of having kids. It really is.
Right.
Yeah,
you get to do that together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know people do it on their own, and I just cannot even bow enough to them because the amount of work that goes into parenting is beyond a full-time job. And to be able to at least do it as a pair makes it a lot easier. But I've had moments where Mark's been away and I just think, wow, single moms, single dads, I
know.
Humble bow.
Absolutely.
They are holding so
Big respect
much
to those folks.
Completely.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of places we want to go with this interview, but since we're on kids, maybe I could ask you another question about that and parenting. Sure. Are your kids? I think I know the answer to this, that they're not yogis, like you are. But I'm curious how you navigated that. That you're not like a yoga family. Yeah, we all do yoga and we all do yoga 7 days a week, and this is kind of what our jam is. Because some people might make that assumption, and I'm just curious, how did you ever try to get your kids into yoga? Did any of them bite and they bailed? Like
right, and you and Mark too, like how you and your husband have navigated that, because that was something that I actually really loved about you guys, seeing the it feels like everyone gets to be who they are and have their values. But I'd love to hear more about that, because I know you're all athletic and
and
I think that's the time as a family.
Yeah, I think that's the common thread. And it's, I think, just growing up in a family that was really athletic, but we each also had our own individual passions within that, and they were celebrated. And, I know some people might grow up in a like football family or basketball family, or if they're a yoga family. And, my family, I'm one of four, and we all did a lot of the same sports, but we eventually kind of did different ones as well. And, I had dance in my background as well. So Yeah, I've always felt like do what speaks to you. So from the very beginning, I would be doing yoga, and Olivia, I remember, would be crawling around me and just naturally kind of imitating some of the things, but it was more kind of just like playing around the mat. And even Mark would sometimes say, "Oh, you need to get her to do yoga with you." And I knew intuitively I would never ever like bring her in and be like, "Let's do yoga together." I wanted it to be something that she initiated. And so, yeah, I never really did that. And interestingly enough, Olivia did get really into it, so much that when she was, say, 8 or 9, she started saying, "I want to do your teacher training, mommy. I want to do," and I was like, "You're a little young."
Wow.
Okay. So, and she just kept on, kept on. And so finally, I think she was like 10 and a half. And I said, "When you're 13, if you're still interested, you could do it." Well, she just needled me so much that she actually did it when she was 12. And so I think she literally was one of the youngest certified teachers. And what I was concerned about is not that she wouldn't embrace it and love it, but that it's really dense material. I mean, it's a lot of, we really dive deep into functional anatomy, and there's a lot of lectures and then labs. And I thought, is this going to be like up her, but she was into it. She's taking notes. She loved it, loved it. And everyone, they're much older. They all loved tap. She was like almost a little mascot. And it was such a joyful time to like go and drive in the car together and have lunch together and have her do this training. And then she taught some at the studio. And it was funny because she taught, she was at that time 12 going on in 13. So she taught this class that she actually named swag, because at that time, swag was this urban word for like confidence. So it was like called our LYT swag. So it was meant for the tween teenage group.
Nice.
And she would teach it after school. And it was a very successful class, but Olivia would always be like, "I don't really like teaching that. They don't take it seriously enough." Like she was so serious, she loved teaching adults, even though she was the little
Yeah.
kid. So now at 19, she's not doing it. She will come back to it. She's doing other versions of it. She still does the reset, and then she'll do some dance stuff. But it's something that she may or may not, like I told her, it might be fun for you to teach yoga in college. I taught aerobics in college, and it was just a great way to meet people. And she said, "That's a great idea. I might do that." So she might do that. I just mentioned it once. Mark, so Olivia has been interested, but that was her own, initiation. Mark, early on, like super early on, 1999, we were on a bike trip before we were married, and I was doing some yoga after we were on this long, so we biked across America. That was like 3 months, and I was just doing some yoga, and he was doing some with me, and I said something to the degree that, like so many yoga teachers say, like bring your nose towards your toes or something like that. And he's like, "I can't do that." He got, because he's super, super tight. And so that, like, we didn't do yoga together for like 10 years, but it was a great lesson for me. I was like, I can't just regurgitate these cues that really are very limited for certain people, right? Like a small population that could really get that feeling. And instead of being mad at him, I was like, wow, that's actually just a great lesson for me. But then he started coming back around to it, and he would come to the studio, and he really loves it. He does it kind of, off and on now. We're actually doing a program right now. I'll just give you a little teaser. We are doing this 6-week Build Your Capacity program that incorporates mobility, strength, stretch, LYT flows, some high intensity training, and some mindfulness. And we are piloting it right now. We're beta testing it on a group of about 60 people. And he's really excited about that. So it's like he comes in and out. He loves coming to the studio. He doesn't just like doing it like on the video. He's not that into it. And I don't care. That's great. He loves me and loves that I love it. And that's what matters.
Right.
Yeah.
And then my son just kind of has never been into it. And I just give him some helpful hints to help his basketball. But yeah, for me, it's like, just because I love something does not mean my whole family has to live it and breathe it like I do. What to your point, Ellen, like the fact that we do things together that are like, playing basketball or taking a hike, that we all share the interest of moving our bodies. And that's really wonderful. And we've taken hikes together. And so that matters to me more than them doing it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's cool how you've held that, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love when you bring your family in, and it's super sweet, I think.
Totally.
And I can remember kind of trying to help you with yoga early on. Like I was always bringing Jason to classes, like trying to find like the right fit for him so that he could, and you were open to it.
She took me to like Ashtanga, and I was like, oh man, this is intense.
It's a lot to start out with.
That's a lot. That's a big leap.
Yeah. And, but you were sort of,
I would just come and go.
You just come and go, and that was fine.
And now,
always been like that.
now I'm into it
now,
more thankfully because of your yoga.
Yeah.
Which I think we need.
I love that.
We need to talk about
like,
that for a minute.
Yeah. Like, can you tell the listener like what makes your LYT yoga different than say a core power or Ashtanga? Because it's obviously, a hybrid of physical therapy and your yoga practice, but how would you describe it? And that's, describe your yoga and maybe how you created it.
Well, in a very short kind of elevator pitch, we often will say it bridges the gap between physical therapy and yoga. And so I was in these two parallel tracks for 26 years. And I really, in the early part of both of them, I really kept them separate, which it's funny. I've talked to other physical therapists or people that are really knowledgeable about the body, and they've done the same thing with yoga, because yoga somehow summons up this like tradition and not quite dogma, but there's a doctrine, and you don't stray from it. You wouldn't question your teachers, or on and on and on. And I mean, that really, I think there's many reasons what that's rooted in. I think it's really easy to have just a method that you follow and that you never question. And we see that in so many walks of life, like just do this, and it's a linear path, and somebody's telling you to do it, and you don't ever question it. So really, what I began to notice, and I did have a vinyasa, kind of classical vinyasa practice and teaching for the first, say, 6 or 7 years. And I don't think I ever did headstands and stuff. That never, like from a PT standpoint, I immediately was like, this is not something I want to teach and have. And I had 50 people in a class. I just did not feel at all safe with that. But I wasn't really even thinking outside the PT realm beyond that. And then I had gotten my postgraduate certification in something called Neurodevelopmental Training, which is really understanding brain development, what happens when there's been a brain injury, and how you can summon other parts of the brain to almost rewire to help the injured area. So I was doing all this stuff. There's a lot of things we do on the floor. It's developmental. It's the things we do from the time we come out of out of the uterus. We do them without any kind of roadmap or any kind of manual. And so when you go back to those developmental things, doing things on the floor, working the core, the postural muscles, you are helping out with this incredible intricate brain mapping that goes into movement. And when I was working with the stroke patients and they were making incredible progress, I remember feeling my own yoga progress. I don't think this was conscious, but this was subconscious. I was realizing my own yoga progress kind of felt stale. And I don't mean like, I wasn't able to do like bind behind my, head behind my leg behind my head, or do a handstand or anything. I wasn't even thinking about handstands at that point. It was feeling stale, and that I was starting to experience some of that repetitive strain injury that you get when you don't have really great form and you're just kind of following a class without really understanding the biomechanics. And I just had this aha moment, like, well, what happened if I started doing what I do with these brain injured patients with the able-bodied people? What would that be like? And so I just started doing it on my own, and my practice just got fresher and cleaner and crisper and brighter. I just felt like, wow, I didn't wake up with kind of the like, little twinginess that I would feel in my hamstring or my shoulder. I felt stronger, and I felt it felt sustainable. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing this with my small laboratory of students that I was teaching at the time. And at first they were like, what is this? This is strange, because they were so used to this You sit down, you get grounded, then you start moving right away. And I was like, actually, we're going to lie on our back. We're going to do this whole reset thing. And after about a month, they were like, this is incredible. Everybody needs to teach this way. So I thought, okay, that's great. And then I started getting more and more students. This is when I had a home studio. And after a few years, several of them started saying, like, we don't really, when you go away, we're just scared to go to other classes. I mean, literally said those terms.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, I see now, like, because I've been like, programmed by you. I see that this is not a really intelligent movement practice for the most part, for the general public, and so they're like, I'm scared I'm going to get injured. And that's when I realized, like, wow, this does not have to be this way. And, there's so many other parts of it, but what I realized is the yoga world was exploding, and that's awesome. But it was missing the biggest component, which is it's, for the most part, especially vinyasa, it's a movement-based yoga, and very few instructors are educated in the body. So the body is moving, and yet they're not educated in, like, well, what's happening. They might know poses, they might know how to call out transitions, they might get some cookie cutter cues like nose to your toes and things like that, but there's not a deeper understanding of the why and the how. And so while it used to really frustrate me because this accrediting board was giving so many teachers reins to create a teacher training program that then spit out more teachers who didn't know what they were doing, eventually it's benefiting me because those people are coming to me now. But it really bothered me because I was like, where is the standard for really teaching? And so, I think people get caught up in yoga being this almost religious type practice that you can't mess around with, that it was like somehow written on, like kind of the Bible. It's like, well, the Bible was written by humans too, people. And, there's a lot of misunderstanding about the origin and roots of yoga. And yoga is really what we practice now is such a blend of so many different traditions. So to think that it would not continue to evolve is very closed-minded. It actually isn't paying homage to the actual origins, which were, especially the movement, the asana practice was influenced by many things that were not based on sitting next to a tree. So I think that where I have had issues in the past with people is that they have been like, this is not yoga. Yoga would not have you doing plyometrics. And I was like, well, if we're trying to raise consciousness to be the best person that we can, to feel the best we can for many decades, why would we not make our body and our spirit and our breath the most robust that we can, and who's to say that doing plyo is not part of that? Like, who told you that? Like, I'd love to know who is the person. And so I have brought a lot of those people over, but it's a very interesting conversation. And of course, now, I've been doing this for like 15 years. Now it's much more common to see this blending of functional movement, this blending of like preparing the body more before you start moving in all these ways, and to move not just in the sagittal plane, but in all the ways our body is created. Our body's created to move in so many ways. So what I think of, now that I'm getting from a long story to a short, is I'm trying to help us all kind of raise our vibration literally on how we feel and experience life by understanding that we are not moving in the varied ways that our body is made to move in this modern day life. We just aren't. And so the mat is like our canvas where we can really play and create and experience how our bodies are made to move. And then we will move better and feel better and breathe better and honestly be better people. And that's the whole idea of being lit up. LYT is an acronym for Lara's yoga technique, but I had always talked about being lit up because when we feel dull, it's usually because we feel dull and stagnant and low in our body and the energy system that it is. And when we feel vibrant, it is, we don't just like get vibrant. It's because we've done something, we've moved something, we've changed something. Right. And so there you go. There's the nutshell of it.
So cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and I know
love
there's
listening to it.
yeah, there's probably many chapters in that.
Right.
Yeah, 3 chapters, yeah.
Yeah. You, Ellen, being an Ashtanga practitioner for what, 25 years or so?
Mm-hmm.
It's been cool to
Oh,
watch
yeah.
her progression with your yoga.
Yeah.
Because do you want to say something about that? Like, because you followed a system for so long.
Yeah, I loved the system, and I thankfully just have to recognize my teachers were really just exceptional teachers in terms of their ability to teach anatomy, and they weren't physical therapists though, and but I've had exceptional teachers and a really positive experience. That I could even practice that long says something, because it is a vigorous practice. But I found you because I was having these minor injuries that kept coming up ever since kind of after I had 2 kids, really. And a couple years ago, found you, Lara, just on Instagram. Thank you for being on there. And I just was watching you move and I was like, I need that. That's what I want, that level of, well, I need the functional movement piece, because I was already working in PT and getting a whole download about just what, I was like, I do yoga. I can, and he's like, you don't have any thoracic mobility. Like I had all these things that I was like, what?
Yeah, you had an issue with your pelvis.
He's like, your pelvis, I had all these things that I thought yoga had just sort of taken care of me, but I have suboptimal movement patterns like many people. And so I was getting good education from him, and then I saw you, and it all came together. And I was like, that looks like a really sustainable practice for me. And your ease of movement and just what you emulate is on many levels resonates very deeply for me. And so it's been amazing. I mean, I feel like I've learned so much in the last couple of years. And then also I was like, Jason, I mean, now I want everyone to do it. I'm like, everyone needs this. Our kids need it. Everybody needs it. But I'm trying to just let people find it and to share it with them as I'm inspired to. But that's been, I mean, everything you say is true about what your practice is about and what it could provide. And I think for many different people. And I think that I have this ongoing thing I'm really curious about. I don't know, I might segue somewhere that I'm not sure where this will take us, but I have such an interest in integration, just mind-body integration as well as you. And I sort of went the psychology route with that, but have always had a movement practice alongside of that, where I felt like I was integrating whatever I was learning, integrating my day-to-day experience in a way that was like tangible and without a story, without content, just sensation. And I love that. And so I'm just curious about, I feel like I just would love to know your experience, I guess, Lara, about being someone who has worked many, many years to achieve a certain level of mind-body integration, which I think your practice clearly demonstrates. And what has that translated? How has that translated into your life? Because clearly it's not, for you, it's not just about having this beautiful, elegant internal mapping, which you clearly have, but it means more to you than that. And so I guess I'm curious about how that extends into your life, what you notice and what you've noticed over time.
Well, that's a wonderful question. And integration is one of those words I use and I love, because it really just, when you say it, it's almost like an onomatopoeia. You feel it, you feel like this kind of puzzle pieces together and everything is working. And for me, I feel like when I'm working on integration, this is where I'm just so, it was purposeful, but there's also been some like accidental blessing that this has become my life. I knew early on, I didn't want a job where I was sitting. So that was like, that was kind of like the first, but it's expanded beyond just like, oh, I wanted to do something and then I wanted to help people. And it's that integration piece that you mentioned. It's that feeling, to me, it's empowerment, because when you're integrated, and I talk a lot about the core, and I know that immediately when people think core, they think abdominals. And to me, core is your center. It's your core values. It's your alignment. It's your compass. And so when you're clear and really strongly have conviction of how you can hold yourself in a variety of ways, against gravity, these wonderful forces, that I feel like it sets you up to be so clear in life. And so for me, it has given me like this empowerment, which I felt like I probably already had, but even more so powerful to make decisions that might have not been, the most popular, or whatever you want to say, like being a vegan, for instance, for 20 years. That is a choice 20 years ago. Now it's many more people are vegan, but it's still, a minority population. But I never was swayed by anything anyone would say, and I think a lot of that has to do with, for me, it was in my conviction, very clear. This is absolutely in line with my core values. I would never step outside of that, even though I had lived many years not being vegan. But it's like when it became, when the veil was pulled, like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so I think the empowerment that I have from that integration makes my choices so much clearer. It doesn't mean I'm always right, but if I'm connected to my center and to my beliefs and really to my heart, and I'm not a perfect person by any means, but I really try and have compassion and kindness be the most important element in my choices. So I think that there's a lot of things in life, I think, that can sway people, and I'm not swayed by those. And maybe I never was, but it's even more so now because of that feeling of I'm just clear and very comfortable and grounded in who I am. And that comes from all of those senses of empowerment, the physical ones, but also the spiritual and mental ones as well.
Yeah, that's powerful. Do you think people can have themselves, like that they really have their center out in life without a physical practice that focuses on the core?
I imagine there are people who do, maybe because they, came into this world and had a lot of those early stages of life, they were given other elements that gave them a sense of empowerment and confidence. But for the most part, I would argue almost everybody needs it. Because your body is part of it. It's not like you can't separate it. It's part of the triangle. Like you can't take one piece away. And that structure of the body is what really holds everything. It holds your energy, and when we're on the mat and we're paying attention to how we move, we also are paying attention to our thoughts about how we move, like, oh, damn, I'm so weak, or wow, look at me. You know what I mean? Like, it's an opportunity actually to examine, like, what are our little stories that we have? Like, I've had people say like, oh, I could never do that. And I was like, okay, well, you never will if you think that. Like, are you saying that to yourself all the time? How about just saying, well, why not try? Why not work on it? And it's the other thing is that I think, if we knew this early, like life is work. Life is work. Isn't that amazing? Like we have to work. We have to work to have a good partnership. We have to work to be good parents. We have to work to be good people. And we have to work on the mat to like undo some of our behavioral and movement habits that aren't the best, that are suboptimal. And so I would think you're going to have a lot more success at doing it as a part of your body movement than just trying to be aware of just your thoughts. Like, because it's usually they come together, right? All of the somatic intelligence is so interwoven with our emotional intelligence. And I bet people who are not as emotionally intelligent have a lot of like, whatever in the somatic intelligence that's not very there. So I would say for the most part, I can't imagine in this modern day world not going to the higher state of power of, emotional and mental intelligence without incorporating your body in it.
Yeah, man, it seems like we live in a culture of people just with washed out cores, and they're just sort of just subordinating to everybody else's ideas, and they kind of don't have themselves, And they might even have strong abs. They might have a six-pack stomach or whatever that looks like they have a strong core, but they really don't have themselves. So yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, it's it is cool, and it leads me to another question around just this way in which, like, how do you feel like you have to help people link those things, like link their yoga practice to their life? Or I guess for some people, they see it intrinsically, they see the connection, but I think there's a lot out there of what we see often is people who have mindfulness or contemplative practices that they're really, like, quote unquote, good at, comfortable with, excel at. And then they still really struggle in a lot of areas of life. Particularly, we see people who are having relationship struggles. And so that's interesting to me, how sometimes it seems really hard for people to connect the dots. And for me, I don't know if this is true for you, but I feel like part of what's meaningful for me about yoga is connecting the dots to life beyond the mat. But I think I just wonder about how you help people with that, or if you feel like that just starts to happen if people stay with it.
I think both. I think I mention it a lot in class. I really try, and I look at, like, being on the mat as it's like a daily lesson, and I feel like we are prepped so much in our early years for certain success or pathways, and then it's just kind of gone. And but we certainly aren't, prepped necessarily. We don't have, like, these emotional lessons per se. And so I think being on the mat is a way of a life lesson. It's like it's checking in a way with, like, how you're feeling, how is your energy, and because the energy, and I know we talk a lot of, people are like, energy, but energy is real. Like, this is not woo woo. We are bodies of energy. I mean, we are also, like, almost 70% water. And it's like that fluidity that we want. How well we can go with the flow literally is, like, metaphor, but it's also true. Like, in your body and your thoughts and your behavior, that's adaptability I speak of a lot. So I interweave, like, how the body represents and how we move in our body, or how we don't stabilize well in our core, how it does represent these parts of our lives that we might not be as well grounded in, or that we're overly, like, held in. And, the people that practice mindfulness but don't really move in big ways, what I try and encourage them or say to them is, like, your body also frees things. Like, we have things, and you guys know this much more than anyone, like, we have things we don't even know we're holding on to, right? And I don't personally believe you can just hope that it's going to just kind of dissipate or evaporate out. I feel like you have to actually quite vigorously move some of that shit out, bring it to the surface. And that's why when people are like, I don't know why I just cried, or I don't know why I just felt like, I've had people do core and they were, like, angry. And I'm like, that's good. Just move with that. Like, that is stuff that is coming out, and you don't need to know what it is or where it came from or why it was there. So I think that we are, like, going back to being, a parent, we are our own laboratory experiment. Like, get to know your body. And if you don't explore movement as a healing mechanism for removing the things that are, like, really holding you down, making you angry, making you heavy, making you not believe in yourself, there's a lot of things that can weigh people down. So I do talk about this a lot in my teacher trainings. And then it comes up, organically, like, oh my gosh, I feel like all of a sudden I realized I need to just leave this job. I've been miserable. And somehow practicing this has made that clear for me. And it's like, well, that's because you like, you're opening up to that. And it's part of the magical elixir that's really hard to describe, but it happens. So, in answer to your question, Ellen, I think I talk about it but I always want to talk about it very authentically from what it does for me and what I have observed, rather than some, I don't want to say woo-woo talk, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm never talking from a place, like, that never resonated with me. I was always like, that doesn't sound like real to me.
It wasn't coming from their own experience necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. It just sounded kind of other ether. And I just wanted to be like, this is real life. Like, if we move and we charge up our core, we are going to feel better. And we are. Like, it's our fire. It's where we generate this will to want to do better, to not want to just be on. And if anybody says, oh, my life's pretty good right now, why would I want to change it? I would say, well, why wouldn't you want to improve? Like that, we should never be kind of satisfied. We can be content, but I think if we're stagnant, we're probably not going to remain content.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, totally.
That's true.
Yo. As you know, I've dedicated my life to helping people with their relationships, right? I want to solve this problem so that all of you can work through your differences and have fulfilling, amazing, badass partnerships and relationships, family, coworkers, friends, whoever. And I have trained a ton of relationship coaches, almost 100 certified relationship coaches, to help you specifically work through your relationship challenges. So I want to invite you to a special deal we're offering to the podcast listener, where you can get 50% off your first month of coaching with one of our amazing relationship coaches. Okay, if you're tired of therapy, it feels like that's going around in a circle, or you want to actually set goals and accomplish your relationship goals, hire a relationship coach. Okay, go to relationshipschool.com/get coaching now, and then use the coupon code FIRST50 to get the 50% deal off your first month of relationship coaching. Super psyched to have our amazing coaches serve you and help you get to the next level. Coming back to, there's a couple of things I want to comment on here. The work thing, I love that. I mean, life is work. Like, if you want to be good at anything or enjoy yourself, you're going to have to put some effort in, right?
Yeah.
And the correlation here in our work with people is that it's amazing how many people don't want to go into conflict, for example, because it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, but they do yoga, let's say. It's like, you'll be uncomfortable in yoga for an hour a day, but you won't like have a difficult conversation with your spouse. What's up with that? That's just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then this, the kind of, I don't know where I went with you saying, I almost heard it as, I'm not like this guru that's talking at people, right, about how to do their life. And this is just one of my beefs with yoga, and I wanted to get your take on it. The yoga scene, I'll call it that, is the 22-year-old that does the teacher training and now is a Dharma teacher in class. That's always been really hard for me. That I'm in class and I just want to go be led through a series or a movement or something, and someone's telling me about life and how to live, and I'm like, I don't like that. When did that start, and why did people do that? And maybe that's okay. I have a
no. I think that's so funny. I totally get that, and it's like I have to round that out with the people that I do teach who don't feel sufficiently capable of teaching. And so, first of all, yeah, I mean, being older has so many advantages. Like, you know what I mean? Just being experienced and living through life. Because I think there's just hopefully a humility that comes with that as well. And as my dad would say, there's so much we don't know. Like, it's kind of like, and I think when you're younger, the awareness of being young, sometimes you try and prove something. So I think that, that would turn me off completely. Like, I don't want anybody who's way younger than me. Like, I wouldn't want my 20-year-old self trying to give me some kind of life lesson, because, I would just teach to the place you are and like have a lot of humility even then. Right. So, I think that this reminds me, I was in this workshop weekend, and after the workshops, we had a teacher Q&A. So about 50 teachers gathered who had been at the workshop, and it was only for teachers. And I basically was just like, let me know what questions you have. And so one of the first questions was, this woman was like, sometimes I just, at the beginning of class, when I'm like doing the Dharma talk, I just feel like I don't really want to, I don't know, I just don't feel like I should be doing, I don't really like some of this stuff, but I feel like, I should be adding it in there. And I just looked at her and I'm like, why? Why do you feel that? Like, if it isn't resonating with you, then why do you feel like you would have to sit there and come up with some philosophical, teaching from yoga scriptures, which, by the way, there's a lot of yoga scriptures you can include and not even say that it came from yoga scriptures. You could just talk about it. But yeah, to your point, I just gave her it was almost, I had to give her permission. And this is, by the way, a professor, she was a professor at university. This is an intelligent person. And she had even felt like bound into this, like somehow holy pathway that you had to start with this Dharma talk. And I guess for me, what resonated with me always from the beginning was I wanted to have my own experience, and I want to give everybody the invitation to have their own experience. And where I can guide them is through the vehicle of the body and bringing awareness to certain areas, to the breath, and then the theme, as you know, we always have a theme, and then weaving the theme and elements of that theme into the class so that it isn't so much a talk, but again, just an invitation to like, how does this resonate for you? Like, what is it? Today I taught practice your ABCs. And what it was never neglect the very basics. And it was a very movement oriented, fun class. But the basics were like, how do you move in your hip? How do you hold your core? How do you get up off the ground? Like, these are things so it was, again, just remember what matters and don't forget the groundwork, and come back to it and revisit it and apply that to everything, right? Whether it's like being a parent, being a spouse, how you move. So that's how I like to get into it, is like, because that might land, I have 30 people in class. Every person might have a different experience of what that means to like not forget the basics. So that I'm much more into like giving an idea and a theme and just letting it resonate in whatever way that person might need. And I feel like when you give a Dharma talk and you're talking to people like a priest or like a minister would be talking to you, it's kind of like they're telling me a story and I'm supposed to do something with that or whatever it is. It's not really an invitation to experience it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's true. There is a distinction there. Yeah. And I do think there is like this pressure I see on yoga teachers now to be like a life teacher. Like, people come to you for yoga and then they start coming to you for all kinds of guidance in their lives. And I just wonder how you handle that as a yoga teacher, because I do think it's an enormous pressure or expectation, and maybe there's parts of it that feel okay and parts of it that don't, and how you navigate that.
So some of it goes back to, I'm going to tear up talking about my dad. Oh my God. But some of my dad, he was like my mentor and still is, but, he was a surgeon, and he would listen. People would call him and he would listen. I mean, sometimes for hours, and my mom would be in the kitchen getting irritated. I mean, can you imagine calling a doctor and having him listen to you? It's just, and, he would get off the phone, and I remember him saying, people just want to be heard. And so I think that's been encoded. And so instead of thinking like, I don't have the tools to tell this person like who's going through something, a lot of times I just listen. And I think what it is, they feel safe because I feel like I've got enough of my shit together, and they, look up to me or want, trust me, that sometimes it's just, they want to be heard. So I think it like, when people are in front of me talking like face to face or even on Instagram and people direct message me, I can't just kind of listen and not respond back. But, again, it's just, some of it is just being seen and being heard. And so for me, that's just being human. If somebody were really suffering in a way I thought they needed help, I would totally tell them, like, I really suggest you reach out and get, somebody who can guide you through this, a professional. If it's something like, I have my teacher trainees go through ups and downs, and they'll write me, and, a lot of it will be like not believing in themselves enough. That's a huge common thread. Like, they feel so well equipped and the tools are there. And then they're like, but Lara, I feel like I'm just, and I just keep telling them, that's part of the work. I was like, the work is that no one is going to come to you unless you show up first. Like you have to just get out there. Like if we ever think we can sit back and have a bunch of people show up to our classes or show up to our trainings, we're so wrong. I mean, like it is work. And isn't that wonderful? Like that means you're passionate about it. So that's what I try and remind them. Like you can have all the tools and be wonderful. And of course you have to believe in yourself, and believing in yourself means you have to go and put yourself out there. And that means like offering a class at the library or you have to, if you don't put yourself out there, no one's just going to show up. It's not that, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. So those are the questions I get more, like having belief, and so, but the other emotional stuff is like, I just try and listen and sometimes, often that is healing enough.
Oh yeah.
Or at least for that moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a huge part, totally. I think. And it's really a generous and beautiful thing that you offer your students. I think you do for someone who has such a widespread student population at this point. It is amazing that you offer that. And I do think people feel like you're there for them. And
I hope so.
That means a lot.
I truly believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved what you said about it's work and you got to put yourself out there. I'm kind of thinking of my relationship coaches. If you're listening, it's like, yeah, guys, you got the tools, you got the skills,
Go.
The work is how can I keep believing in myself to put myself out there?
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. It's just like, anything, somebody says, oh, my shoulder isn't that good. And I can give them all the tools, but if they don't apply them,
right.
There isn't going to be change, so it's like, that is the hardest hurdle for a lot of people. And then keeping the, foot on the gas. It's like, it's right. You're going to get, you're going to have radio silence. You might even get rejected. And you just have to that's where, again, I think if you're really solid and you continue to work on yourself, because that is going to get you through those valleys for sure. You have to keep putting yourself out there and believe in yourself, because then that's also an attractive quality.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have something?
I got one, but go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
We don't often interview someone together, but I was like, I'm coming to Lara's interview. Like,
I love that.
I want to be here. I wanted to come back to the relationship piece, because if a lot of our listeners are here because they want to improve or learn more about their relationships. And I know I personally am checking with you. Like, I feel like yoga has been, and just having a movement practice has been such a grounding foundation for me as a human, which then helps me show up every day in the way I want to with my husband, with my kids and my work. Mm-hmm. And so it feels like a direct resource for me to resource myself, so then I can be the person in relationship that I ultimately am always working to be. But I wonder, do you feel like yoga stands out as, because obviously movement's important for our bodies. We all need that. It's essential to our well-being. There's lots of things that could be, but I'm wondering about like yoga as a form of movement for personal development. And if you feel like that, just what you would say about that. Like,
I think
yoga is sort of what I'm wondering.
Yeah. Well, so the way I would kind of differentiate yoga from other forms of movement, because there's other forms of movement that are also hugely therapeutic. People go on runs and they feel like they just cleared something, or they got their list in, or whatever. And of course, they've rejuvenated all the different systems in their body that make them feel, alive. And it's great for either ramping you up or calming anxiety. And so there's walking in the woods. All of that can do that. I think what yoga does on a more consistent basis is it is honing in. I feel like our life is, I know the days that I don't practice, I just feel kind of scattered. Like I just don't feel super focused. I don't feel completely awake, And so for me, I really need it. Like it is like my pill, that makes me like, okay, now I can be super clear, very, very attentive. When I don't do it, and I could still walk in the woods and feel wonderful, but there's something that calls you inward in a way that I don't really know too many other things do. And I've done a lot, and sports all do different things, or activity, physical activity. It's something about, and it's specifically LYT, I think, because we start off and we go back to those developmental stages. It's almost like it takes you through the journey in, a cycle of your day, of your life, of your development in each class. And in doing that, it draws me in and clears my mind and energizes me and reestablishes my nervous system, because I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm really inhabiting that space. And what I often tell people is, as you guys know, your mind is very infrequently present. We're often like thinking about the past or the future, and it's just kind of jostling around. And then we have a moment here, and then it's like, and our bodies are always present, always. They're not like living 10 years ago. Some people might like that. Some people might like. I feel better in many ways than I did 10 years ago, but they're very present. And so it's the most accurate barometer of being present. And when you're moving in these different planes and different joints moving, and then holding it and being so aware of the complexity of it, and yet there's such a simplicity of it, there's no focus for me that I'm never as focused as I am after a class. I just feel like, well, we talk about it sometimes after my Tuesday live. I'm like, and I know does anybody have any questions? Because it's like, I don't have any questions because I feel totally spaced. It's not spaced out. It's like a flushed out.
Yeah.
It's so
cleaned out.
right.
It's okay.
It's just like, yeah, things are great. If I have a question, I'll come back to you. But right now I'm feeling awesome.
Mhm.
And that's the big, I wish I had more of a vocabulary to describe it, because I never want to not. What I tell people is, what you love doing that you will consistently do, please do that.
Sure.
Right. So
Right.
what matters most is that you're moving. What matters second is that you're moving well, so that you can be doing that for decades.
Right.
Because some people will say, well, would you rather somebody move suboptimally or sit on the couch? And I'm like, well, that's like one of those, trick questions, but I'd much rather you move. And then I really want you to pay attention to how you move. And all of that is happening. I keep pointing back to my mat, on the mat, because I feel like we can walk in the woods, we can run, we can do other sports, and we might not be paying attention in that way. We might be paying attention to other things. I'm running after a soccer ball. I'm running and I'm looking at the trees. So I am zoned in, but I'm not necessarily zoned into my body and connecting to the body. So it's like macro to micro and micro to macro. It's like happening simultaneously. And, then the people that go to the gym and they're absolutely trying to tune out because they just want to get through 45 minutes. And I've done that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what a waste of time that is. Like watching a show and trying to vigorously, be on the Stairmaster because I don't really want to be there, but I know it's going to do, you know what I mean? Like I'd much rather be in it and then even feel the struggle in it than, there's something, really noble about like running without any distractions, like in your ears or whatever, and just like feeling the struggle and sticking with it. And I feel like that's what we get here more on the mat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, as I listen, I just hear like, it just cultivates all these capacities we have as humans that are going to support our complex, fast-paced, challenging lives, like help us show up for that with more focus, more capacity, more willingness to be uncomfortable. If it's in the service of growth and development, of course, it's easier to do that. Like there's so many skills we need for relationships, like a big one being, how do we get present with each other again? Because our most important people, we tend to kind of tune out the most. We sort of like pay the least attention to at times, and they kind of need our utmost attention, would you say? And so I'm hearing just, it cultivates a lot of qualities and capacities that support our lives in a big way. And of course, if it feels good, which I deeply think it does, that that validates so much too.
And could support good relationships in a way, is
Yeah,
what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying. Like these capacities that help us with other people and tolerate the complexities, challenges, discomfort, help us get clear about where we might want to go or take ourselves and our relationships. Like it requires a lot of self-reflection and an ability to know what we're thinking and feeling and being able to kind of work with that and make space for others. Like I just think there's like innumerable benefits to having a practice like yoga.
I would add on to that that got me thinking. What I often will, compared to other maybe movement practices, the other big thing I think the LYT yoga does in particular is it really reveals, it's like, so yes, it reveals like how you do need to pay more attention, but it also, I've had people, it reveals like, I'm in a really bad relationship. I like, not that I want people to go in that direction,
right?
But if they are in a really unhealthy relationship, I have had numerous people who said, practicing this actually really revealed to me, like I have been tolerating some things that I no longer tolerate.
Yeah.
And, so I think it goes both ways. It really reveals what's important and what you do want to put your energy into, and it reveals what you also don't necessarily need to tolerate, whether it's other people or situations, behaviors.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about our coaches right now. And one of the skills we teach them to be with their clients is just this, I call it be with. It's being with whatever's occurring, right? When I'm triggered, for example. And I can imagine like being on the yoga mat in a yoga class with 50 people, let's say, and everybody was listening to podcasts while they were doing yoga, right? They're not being with their experience. So you were kind of speaking about that in terms of running, or can we do yoga and just actually be with what's occurring? And I think it's a tremendous life skill to be with our experience. And yoga, I think, is a really cool, just an amazing way to do that. So I just wanted to say that. We're winding down. A couple more questions.
Sure.
I have one that's sort of a non sequitur here around judgment. I sort of make up a story that someone as courageous as you has faced some judgment, branching out and doing your own thing and not sort of following the herd around. Nope, this is the Iyengar system, and this is what we're doing here today, and this is all we do, and do not veer outside of that path. You veered outside of that, and that takes a lot of courage. I just want to see you in that. And also, I imagine you've dealt with some judgment, and I'm curious about how you deal with judgment. And because I imagine there's a lot of us listening that, we deal with judgment. Other people judge us. We have haters, whether we're on social media or not. And let me say one more thing, and then you can respond, is some yoga teachers and some spiritual teachers, in my experience, and this is coming from my own experience, if I bring up, well, I'm getting judged, it's like, well, take it to the mat. Take it to the cushion meditation. Go drink another cup of ayahuasca. Instead of, well, no, I actually, this is intense for me. So I'm curious how you deal with and have dealt with judgment from others. And then when, as a yoga teacher and people come to you and they're feeling judged, like what do you recommend?
Oh, wow. So, I definitely have gotten judged. I mean, it's easier. I will say, I think in some ways it's easier when you've been doing it a while because you can brush it off, and I don't get it, at least in my face, often anymore. Occasionally, like, we'll have something on LYT Yoga on one of our advertisements. And sure enough, it's so funny. Whenever we do an ad on Facebook, which we don't run all the time, but when we run it, it's like out of the woodwork, come the righteous.
Right.
They're like, well, why does yoga need to bring, why do you need to bring physical therapy into yoga? It was wonderful to start off with, or things like that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't bother me. Like because I see through it. I see it. When I see it now, and I would say early on, I also saw it. So first of all, my first, I guess, piece of advice is see it for what it is, as everything. It has nothing to do with you. right? It's a reflection of this person's discomfort with the message is different than what they are like absolutely solidly, committed to. And it's very uncomfortable for people who are rather rigid to think differently. And especially if you attach like spirituality to it or anything else to it. So what I think is that person's very comfortable with the way they're practicing, and I will never reach that person or unlikely, but that's okay. That's fine. Yeah. They're comfortable with them, right? When it's gotten like, earlier on when I was doing this and no one was, when I say no one, at least no one in my sphere, and there wasn't social media at that time. So when I would do workshops and stuff and get outside of my local town, then I would go and I'd it was like a big dose of reality. I would say like it's getting out of the bubble. Mm-hmm. Because everyone that was coming to my studio, it's like they drank the Kool-Aid. They loved it. This is the yoga they practiced. They did not bounce around to studios. This was it. And then it's really when a new person would come in, try it, and you kind of could see on their face, like, what is going on here? And I would get a lot of teachers. I would always have a lot of teachers coming to me. So that to me is like, they heard something about me and they wanted to experience it. And my job is not to convince them. My job is just to be me. Yeah. And if they have questions for me, great. But I am not I'm not trying to convert people, and I'm not trying to shame a system. This is the way I'm doing it. And if you like it, wonderful. And if you don't, that's cool too. Right. Mm-hmm. So I would have teachers that would come, and I would say 90% of them are like, oh my gosh, I've never felt that way. And they'd have tons of questions. And then I'd have some who were really loving the way they were practicing. And I could read their energy, and I'm like, I'll say a few things, but I'm not going to be way on, I'm not going to come over and try and make any major changes, because I could sense prickly cat doesn't want me to come in. Right. So I think, be intelligent. Like, I'm not coming in and I'm not going to manhandle you and you need to do it this way. It's like, you come into my space, I welcome you. And if you want to try it this way, great. If there's even a little bit of like, oh, what is she talking about? And I'll come over and I'll say, hey, just try it this way, because this might actually, and I'll tell them why. Not like you're doing it wrong, but if you do this, you're actually going to get a little bit more space in your back, or you're going to get more connection into your abdominals, or this will really help your shoulders stay healthy. Or, I'll tell them the why. And so I think that you meet judgment where it is, and you don't try, you're not going to get anywhere punching it. What you diffuse it by either it's like, hello and goodbye kind of thing. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine. Or you try and just put in a couple reasons why this person might want to try it this way. And with, the biggest lesson in yoga and life is not being attached to the outcome. And so if you're a people pleaser, that is hard. Yeah. And it was hard for me. I like people. I think I'm a pretty likable person, but I had to get really okay with the fact people might not like me or my system. And, it's like, okay, I believe in it so strongly and I see how it's helped so many people. I'm not going to capture everybody, and that's okay. But I'm not going to blame those people. I'm not going to be rude to them. And I really am, even though I have a lot of my own opinions up here, I really am careful about what comes out of my mouth in terms of, I don't ever want to bash any other kind of yoga practice. What I will try and bring in is, I think there could be some more intelligence, in our, teachings. That's all. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. My husband just brought me this. Thanks.
Oh, sweet. Love that.
Hooking you up.
I know.
Take care of me. I know. Green smoothie. So yeah, I would say I had, when it is, thank you for saying that. I do feel really courageous. And there are moments where I definitely equivocated. We would have we didn't advertise at the studio in the first couple of years at all. It was all organic marketing. And my logo was Yoga Stream was the name of my studio before we rebranded to LYT. And the UI was a handstand with a stagger leg. And I had a few people, that were close to me that said, people are like intimidated to come to studio because they think you have to do a handstand. I was like, I've never said that. Like, why again, this is what people, they take it on,
Right.
So they don't want to come because everybody's doing handstands when that is actually not true at all, but that's their own story. But I had a moment where after about 2 years, I was like, well, maybe I should just like not like low key down the handstands. And a friend who is not like a really close friend, but a marketing expert was like, no, you teach empowerment. You change women's lives. You're having moms who like couldn't even get on their hands, like try a handstand. This is what you sell. And if they don't like it, tough, but do not change who you are, Lara. And I was like, okay. And it was like, thank you for doing that. By the way, she lives in Boulder now.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Michelle, who, and I don't think I would have anyway, but to have somebody just be like, absolutely, you don't change who you are. And if people are going to like it or not. So I think in judgment, remember it doesn't have as much to do with you as it has to do with the person's own stuff, good or bad.
Yeah. And it sounds like we're all more vulnerable to getting sucked into that like cycle of feeling judged and then trying to get out of it if we're not clear about who we are or why we're doing what we're doing. Like it seems like your deep rootedness in that really helped you be clear about what people might say or do around you. And
absolutely. And I'm really unabashed about the fact that I have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and there's many things in life. I am like at kindergarten level, but this I'm not. Like I know I'm at a really high level of understanding. And so people can talk about, oh, posture doesn't matter. I'll have even my teacher trainees they'll see something on Instagram and they're like, this person's saying that anterior tilt doesn't cause pain. What do you think, Lara? And I'm like, they can say what they want. They really can, right? Everybody's entitled to their opinion because you don't have, a double-blind research piloted study that has proven that doesn't mean it's not true. Like there's a lot of stuff that we know to be true that is not like always backed up by a dense amount of research. And so I'm like, I'm super solid in my, I've had a lot of that. And I just am like, you can choose to believe what you want. So, and then I'll ask the teacher, I'm like, well, did it help you? Yes, it did. But I'm like, okay, stick with that.
Stick with that. Just go with that.
You're going to have 50 people telling you different stuff. If you're not super clear, those are the people that ping pong around like, whoa, I'm supposed to be doing this. Oh no, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be, sitting on hot water. No, cold water is good. It's like.
Totally.
Yeah.
So much coming in now. Yeah. We need our clarity even more.
I know.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Laura, it's been awesome hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time and experience, and our lives are changing thanks to your yoga.
Totally. Yeah.
I love that. That just brings me so much happiness. I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's us too.
Yeah.
We're so grateful.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like,
we're going to be moving well for many decades as we have this with us.
Yeah,
so thank you.
I wanted to say, for me, I've been a physical therapy just half-asser my whole life. And you've made physical therapy like fun and super interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's where I felt like when we talk about like our mission statement is we're bridging the gap between yoga and PT. It's not that either one of those are missing something. It's that there are some elements that could be, improved upon. And in PT, we're limited with how much time we have with somebody. And there can be some cookie cutter treatment that is really not interesting.
Right.
And then yoga, there's some lack of knowledge of the body that can lead to, some suboptimal movement patterns just being exacerbated on the mat instead of improved. So really trying to just blend it. So it's like, that's the other thing. I want people to have fun.
Yeah.
Yoga should not be a place where you go and you're stern faced and you're not happy. Like, why? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
We are so serious in life. That was one thing I got a big kick out of when I would teach at these studios, and I would be like, why nobody looks like they're having fun? The fun is a very important thing, right? And so yoga doesn't have to be all serious and austere. We can really bring joy and, dare I say, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah, you definitely bring that.
Totally. Where can folks find you? Where are you on social and all that?
So my personal social media handle is Lara, Lara.Heimann, Heimann. And then the Lit Yoga one is Lit Yoga Method. That's all one word. And then you can find, we have an online platform. We have 3 different subscriptions. We have a basic plan for people who are just like, I'm not sure this is my thing, or I've never done yoga, or I'm getting back into yoga, or I'm injured. You can come in at the basic level. We have our kind of medium level, which is daily classes, replays, over 300 classes in the library, and a few lives a week. And then we have our Lit Prime, which also incorporates a virtual studio with lit yoga teachers. And our goal is to get that running like 24/7, all time zones, different languages, kind of like all over the world. And you can access that by going to lityoga.com, lytyoga.com. And of course, I have Redefining Yoga podcast, which you guys have been on, and then Jason's been on.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love that. I love all of it. It's an amazing platform that you've built, Laura, and accessible. Really, anyone at any stage can enter in to something that would benefit their overall well-being so much. So thank you for the hard work to just make what you're doing accessible to so many. I know we've benefited so much.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Thank you so much for, sticking with it, practicing with it with joy, and then, bringing it to your listeners, to your community. I'm really grateful for you all.
All right, action step here from this amazing convo with Lara. If you want to join and try Lit Yoga, you've heard the ads here that I do from time to time. Go to relationshipschool.com/lit yoga, LYT yoga, to get the first month for $1, which is cheaper than she offers, I think, anywhere else, for you to just try it. And then I think it's, $47 or $49 or something a month, which is a screaming deal for what you get. I'm getting so much from that. That's what I do. I just pay for I think I have the basic membership, and I'm just like so served by it. So if you want a new body practice, I encourage you to check it out. And then I would ask you to reflect with someone in your life on this podcast in terms of what somatic practice do you have that's serving your relational life? And how is it serving your relational life? Share that with a friend, all right? Okay, y'all, thanks for listening in. You guys are awesome. This was a little veering off normal relationship stuff, but Ellen and I thought it would be fun to do this. So let us know what you think. And because we want to possibly bring on more kind of health people, because that's a high value of ours. All right. Thanks, guys. I've been telling you guys about my life-changing yoga practice and how my body is healing after decades of injuries. And that's thanks to Lit Yoga, my friend Lara Heimann, and her incredible yoga technique, really, practice. She combines physical therapy and asana yoga practice to help you get stronger in your core in all the right places. And it's coming from someone who knows the body deeply, as a person who's worked with so many injuries. And that's me. I'm an injured dude. And I need a yoga that is going to help me move effectively and efficiently throughout my life. And I'm getting stronger, and it's intense. It's awesome. And so if you are injured in some way, and you're over probably, 35, 40 on up, and you love yoga, or you like to move for 30 minutes a day, and you're looking for something, I really recommend Lit Yoga. It's my new thing, and my wife turned it on to me. So Laura is giving you a free trial, basically a $1 trial. It's basically free. Try her yoga for a month. Okay, dozens and dozens and dozens of classes, recorded and live, guided by her and her crew that she's trained. And I imagine you're going to get stronger if you just try it for a month. Okay, so go to relationshipschool.com/LYT yoga. And then at checkout, make sure you enter the coupon code JAYSON, Jason. And you'll get your first month for $1. And then after that, I think it's like almost $50 a month. Check it out. I think you're going to dig it. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Share one of these videos with a friend. We want to help the planet get their act together around relationships. And you are one of them, so thank you.